All right, y'all. So this is Emphasis from the Talking to Myself podcast. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Let's get right into it. Nicki Minaj is a Hall of Fame artist. Like her jersey is gonna be in the rafters one day. She is one of the best female rappers of all time, and she is quite literally the biggest and most successful, most commercially successful female rapper of all time. She's made a lot of the right decisions in her career. A lot of things have gone in her favor in her career. She's been at the right places at the right time. Like I guess she's done all the right things, such as bodying guest features. We all know infamously she killed that monster verse. But then also even songs like Up All Night off of Drake's Thank Me Later album. In my opinion, I think that's really her best guest feature of all time. But still, nonetheless, she showed up wherever she needed to, bodied her verses. But she didn't do in my opinion, she didn't do every single thing right in her career. And there's just one thing that I just want to kind of touch on really. People like Fendi, who was her original manager, they mentioned this and we all kind of ignored it. But the more time goes on, the more it seems like this was true, where Fendi said that she wanted to be the only female that was popping. And, for a while she obviously was because when she came out, there was a massive void on in the mainstream of like, female hip hop. But I feel like she missed an opportunity, a big opportunity to start an all-female record label early in her career. Now, from what I understand, she has one now. Well, about like a year ago, she started a record label called Heavy on It Records, but in my opinion, I'm not saying it's too late. She could still have plenty success with that in the coming years, but to me, the best time to do this would have been 2010 to 2015. Because at that time, like she just had complete control over mainstream hip hop. Oh, excuse me, over the female space in mainstream hip hop. Like she just like she had it completely in her grasp at that point. People weren't as open minded as they are now. So at that time, people kind of had like a one track mind when it comes to female hip hop. They only wanted to really hear one at a time for whatever reason. But now it's a whole different ball game. Obviously, people are listening to pretty much whoever now. Now you look around, there's like a dozen females who are popping right now on a mainstream level, not just on an underground level. But at that time, from 2010 to 2015, the only person that almost challenged Nicki was Iggy Azalea, and that was just like kind of a quick thing that came and went. This would have been a perfect opportunity. That window would have, in my opinion, would have been a perfect opportunity for her to start this label. Like legit could have made herself her own gatekeeper, honestly. Like when you think about all the female rappers who came out during the 2010s who never got that sort of mainstream attention, I can't imagine that any of them would have said no to Nicki between 2010 and 2015 if she had offered them a record deal. Like she could have legit had her own monopoly, and that could have helped her in multiple ways. On one hand, it would have allowed for her to make her legacy bigger than it already is. Like when you think about what Lil Wayne did with Young Money, Lil Wayne didn't need to make Young Money. Like he was already like the biggest rapper on the planet at that time. But it still helped him go to another level, really, and it gave him opportunity to create a couple of proteges who would make his legacy bigger than what it is in the coming years. And he signed many artists, but the artists who went the furthest, of course, were Drake, Nicki, and Tyga. And I think it would have helped Nicki if she would have tried to do something similar at an early point of her career. Also, another reason I think a all female label would have definitely helped Nicki is I think it would have put her in a better position to be more protected for when the labels send female rappers to attack her because most people are aware that at one point, I don't think this is really the case anymore, but at one point, a lot of labels they were trying to find their own Nicki Minaj, and in the path to doing that, they were trying to send female rappers to come at her. I don't really think this is the case now, but that still would give you a better understanding of why maybe Nicki didn't want to start a label. Maybe she was a bit paranoid because to me, from my perspective, and I'm sure from her perspective, that kind of it was a declaration of war. You have like billion-dollar companies trying to take you down because essentially because they're mad that they're not making money off of you. And in war, when you're in a war, you need allies. If she already had her own label, I do think that could have helped her a little bit, where she would have had more people aligned with her, and there's power in numbers. People aren't going to be as quick to want to attack you if they feel like now all of a sudden you have all these other people right by your side ready to have your back. I think Nicki sees that now, and that's why in recent years she's tried to collaborate a little more with some female rappers like JT or Ice Spice. I still think it would have helped her a lot more to try to get on this early, because now she's in a weird spot where she's basically on an island, and a bunch of the newer female rappers are like collaborating with each other and clicking up with each other, and it's seeming like they're all just having like one big party and just going crazy and doing whatever, and then Nicki's just kind of in her own little bubble. And also, it seems from the outside looking in, it also seems like anytime Nicki tries to get close with another female rapper, she wants to put them in a situation where they have to choose between her or everybody else. And that's not going to be as appealing for a lot of females who she might sign right now, because at that point, if somebody aligns themselves with you, that's basically them saying that they don't want to deal with anybody else, and they're ready to take on anybody who you got a problem with, like a Cardi B or a Lotto or anybody else for that matter. And it doesn't help that on the rare occasions now where she tries to link up with a female rapper, they inevitably fall out. Now that's not all Nicki's fault, obviously. Like the Ice Spice situation, for example, that's not on Nicki. That's really on Ice Spice. Like Ice Spice is talking crazy behind Nicki's back to a friend, and then unfortunately for her, her friend exposed her. And if you're Nicki, obviously you're not gonna want to deal with her beyond that point, because she's talking about you as if you desperately need her, which she needed her, but not desperately. But that goes into the next issue with why I think Nicki waited a little too late to, or a little too long to start her record label, is because of the fact that now, since so many years have passed and she's not in her prime anymore, and when I say prime, I mean like prime as far as like the peak of her popularity. She's not at her prime anymore when it comes to the peak of her popularity. So now a lot of female rappers coming up now, they're not looking at it the way they would have looked at it in 2010. Now they're looking at it as if you desperately need them to stay relevant, which she does. I wouldn't say desperately, but she does need them to stay relevant. But that's also gonna make them feel less incentivized to want to sign to her label, because they might feel like, hey, they could just get it popping on their own, because that's usually when she's gonna want to work with them. Because that's usually what she's gonna want to work with them anyway. So they might just say, "Hey, let me not sign to her. Let me just get it popping on my own and get my own situation going." So I just feel like she missed a major opportunity. She could have been very far ahead of the curve. Because now you look up, there's been um, essentially a female rap renaissance. Like I said a few minutes ago, like back when Nicki first came out, there was just this massive void. So it's so people, they were also less open minded. They only listened to one at a time. But now at this point, you look around, it's like, look, man, you can see somebody like a Flo Milli, then a Lotto, then a Doechii, then a Flyana Boss, then a Rhapsody, then a Snow the Product, then a who else? A Bia. So many people are like out there doing their own thing now. So again, Nicki's still by far the biggest, but I just feel like there could have been a major opportunity that she kind of left on the table to make herself even bigger as far as finding a protege early in her career. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Do you think this really matters? Do you think that Nicki could have become bigger if she had if she had started a label and found some proteges early, or do you think that it wouldn't have mattered and she kind of would have still been in the same spot and they probably would have turned their back on her at some point anyway?